Before the age of the selfie, long before the front-facing camera was even a glimmer in an engineer's eye, ancient civilizations were already warning us about the dangers of self-obsession. The Greeks and Romans wove this warning into a haunting myth. It's a story you might think you know, but stick with me, because the psychological truths buried within are more relevant today than ever. In one classic telling, Narcissus was a young man of breathtaking beauty, destined to wander the world in search of someone worthy of his love. His path crossed with a nymph named Echo, who fell desperately for him, but he coldly rejected her. Later, fatigued and thirsty, he knelt by a perfectly still river. Leaning down to drink, he caught a glimpse of his own reflection in the water. In that moment, he was lost. He fell irrevocably in love with the image he saw, unable to comprehend it was merely himself. Transfixed, unable to eat, drink, or tear himself away, he eventually wasted away and drowned. On that very spot, a flower grew, a flower we now call the Narcissus. This ancient tale isn't just a poetic tragedy. It's a profound allegory for a psychological reality. It captures the essence of narcissism, an elevated, all-consuming, and ultimately detrimental self-involvement. But I want you to understand this clearly. Narcissism isn't just a buzzword from pop psychology or a label we throw at an X in an advice column. It is a serious, multifaceted set of traits that has been rigorously classified, studied, and debated by psychologists for decades. The core of the psychological definition is an inflated, grandiose self-image. Think of it as a psychological hall of mirrors. To varying degrees, individuals with these traits are convinced they are more attractive, more intelligent, more unique, and more important than others. They believe the standard rules don't apply to them, and that they are inherently deserving of special treatment, admiration, and privilege. It's a worldview built on a fragile throne. Now, before we dive deeper into the modern science, I need you to do something for me. If you're finding this deep dive into the human psyche even remotely fascinating, you have to subscribe. This channel is dedicated to unpacking complex ideas just like this one, and subscribing is the absolute best way to make sure you don't miss a single piece of future content. Every single subscription fuels this channel and allows us to bring you more. So hit that subscribe button right now. And while you're at it, smash that like button. It genuinely helps this content reach more curious minds like yours. Psychologists generally recognize two primary expressions of narcissism as a personality trait: grandiose narcissism and vulnerable narcissism. There is also a more severe, clinical diagnosis known as narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, which we will dissect in great detail later. Let's start with the one you're probably most familiar with: grandiose narcissism. This is the classic, stereotypical version. It's characterized by high extroversion, dominance, and an unquenchable thirst for attention and admiration. Grandiose narcissists are often the life of the party, the charismatic leader, the bold self-promoter. They actively pursue positions of power, visibility, and status. You'll find them drawn to careers in politics, entertainment, business leadership, or as cultural influencers. A crucial distinction must be made here. Not everyone who seeks leadership or the spotlight is narcissistic. Many are driven by a genuine passion, a desire to create positive change, to help others, or to achieve a meaningful goal. The key difference lies in the motivation. The narcissistic individual seeks power primarily for the status, the external validation, the attention, and the sense of superiority it confers. The role is a vehicle for their ego, not a platform for service. On the other side of the coin lies vulnerable narcissism, which is far less overt, but equally significant. These individuals may appear quiet, reserved, even insecure. They are hypersensitive, easily hurt, and perpetually feel slighted or underestimated. Beneath this surface, however, burns a powerful sense of entitlement and a deep belief in their own hidden superiority. They expect special recognition and consideration, often becoming resentful and withdrawn when they feel the world fails to acknowledge their perceived specialness. They are the forever victims, convinced of their unique suffering and brilliance, which no one else seems to appreciate. Regardless of whether the expression is grandiose or vulnerable, the long-term consequences, the dark side of narcissism, inevitably surface. Because their core drive is self-serving, narcissists tend to act selfishly. A narcissistic CEO might make recklessly risky or blatantly unethical decisions to glorify their own legacy, jeopardizing the entire company. A narcissistic politician might prioritize cultivating a, maybe manipulative, emotionally dishonest, or unfaithful, seeing their partner as an audience or a source of supply rather than an equal. And here's the critical trigger. When their carefully curated, rosy self-view is challenged by criticism, failure, or simple lack of admiration, they don't reflect. They retaliate. The reaction can be one of intense resentment, passive-aggressive hostility, or outright aggression. It creates a paradoxical dynamic often observed by psychologists. The narcissists themselves may feel quite good, basking in their own self-importance, while the people around them, partners, family, colleagues, friends, endure the suffering. It's a relational disease where the primary symptoms are felt by others. Part 2. This brings us to the clinical extreme, narcissistic personality disorder. This is not simply having strong narcissistic traits. It is a pervasive, inflexible, and enduring pattern that causes significant impairment in a person's thinking, feeling, and behavior, leading to major distress and dysfunction in their personal, social, and professional lives. NPD affects an estimated 1 to 2% of the general population and is diagnosed more frequently in men. It's also crucial to note that this is a diagnosis reserved for adults. Children and adolescents can exhibit profound self-centeredness, but this is often a normal part of developmental stages. Pathologizing a young person's developing identity is inappropriate. NPD is about a fixed adult pattern. The authoritative guide, the American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, 5th edition, DSM-5, outlines specific criteria. To be diagnosed, an individual must exhibit a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, a constant need for admiration, and a pronounced lack of empathy, beginning by early adulthood and present across various contexts. The specific traits include a grandiose sense of self-importance, preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success and power, a belief that they are special and can only be understood by other special people, a requirement for excessive admiration, a strong sense of entitlement, a pattern of exploiting interpersonal relationships, a marked lack of empathy, envy of others, or a belief that others are envious of them, and arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. What transforms these traits from disagreeable characteristics into a true disorder is the totality of their impact. Let's make this concrete. Imagine, instead of nurturing your children with unconditional love, you primarily see them as extensions of yourself, trophies to showcase your parenting or sources of admiration. Imagine, instead of being a partner to your spouse, you use them as a mirror to reflect your greatness back at you, discarding them if they fail in that role. In the workplace, imagine that instead of seeking constructive feedback to improve, you systematically dismiss, demean, or sabotage anyone who offers a suggestion that implies you are less than perfect. The person's life becomes a fortress built to protect a fragile ego, and everyone else is either a servant to that ego or an enemy at the gates. Now, let's pause for a critical moment of interaction. This content takes an immense amount of research and effort to produce. If this exploration of narcissistic personality disorder is providing you with value, with insight, then you must comment below. Tell me what you think. Have you encountered these patterns? How do you think society fosters or discourages them? Your comments not only build an incredible community of discussion, but they also tell the YouTube algorithm that this is meaningful content. So please, leave a comment right now. And after you comment, share this video. Share it with a friend, a family member, on your social media. Someone in your life needs to understand this information. Sharing is how knowledge spreads and how we break stigmas. So share aggressively. So what creates narcissism? The age-old question of nature versus nurture finds a complex answer here. Twin studies indicate a surprisingly strong heritable genetic component. The predisposition for these personality traits can be inherited, though scientists are still working to identify the specific genes involved. However, environment plays a powerful and shaping role. Parenting styles are profoundly influential. Parents who engage in overvaluation, constantly putting their child on a pedestal, treating them as more special or entitled than others, showering them with excessive and unwarranted praise, can cultivate the soil for grandiose narcissism to flourish. Conversely, a cold, controlling, or neglectful parental environment can contribute to the development of vulnerable narcissism, where the child develops a defensive, entitled grandiosity to compensate for a deep-seated sense of inadequacy and lack of warmth. Culture is another monumental factor. Narcissism as a measurable personality trait appears to be higher in. Decision not to commit to her is a powerful data point you are ignoring. 3. Destruction of group cohesion. Social gatherings become awkward. Friends must censor themselves. A shared sexual history creates permanent, unspoken tension. If the relationship ends poorly, you risk losing not only the partner, but vital friendships. Key identifiers: an uncomfortable overfamiliarity with your social circle, vague, warning comments from friends, her avoidance of group events where certain individuals will be present, peculiar, strained reactions when her name is mentioned among your peers. Choosing this profile often means trading your social capital and respect for a partner who has already explored your immediate network. If this analysis is protecting you from future hardship, you need to subscribe. New videos breaking down these complex dynamics are released every week. Don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications now. Profile 6. The Digital Validation Seeker. This profile derives her primary sense of self-worth from online admiration. Her social media presence is a meticulously curated display of sexualized or attention-seeking content, aimed at generating maximum engagement from a predominantly male audience. Her entire identity is performative, built upon the dopamine hits of likes, comments, and follower counts from strangers. The danger is the constant, public display of perceived availability while she claims you are her sole focus. You are competing with the validated attention of thousands. She is destructive due to modern realities. 1. Addiction to mass validation. Her neurological reward system is hooked on the scale of anonymous male attention. No single partner can possibly compete with or satisfy this insatiable need for external affirmation. 2. Signaled perpetual availability. A public, sexualized digital persona is a signal of openness. Her direct messages are flooded with options, making temptation and alternative connections perpetually one click away. 3. Narcissistic superficiality. When self-worth is rooted entirely in physical appearance and the applause of strangers, the development of character, empathy, and relational skills is often neglected. The capacity for private, intimate bonding is underdeveloped. Key identifiers: a feed dominated by provocative imagery, a follower base with a highly skewed male-to-female ratio, engagement with direct messages from unknown men, posts and stories designed to elicit jealousy, a life lived primarily for the digital audience. A relationship with this profile means sharing your partner, in effect, with a limitless online male audience whose attention she actively cultivates. Profile 7. The Historical Revisionist. This is perhaps the most insidious profile. She actively conceals or drastically misrepresents her sexual history. When asked directly, she provides a number that is a fraction of the true count, omits key relationships, and creates a sanitized narrative of her past. Inconsistencies are met with deflection or further gaslighting. The danger is foundational deception. She is engineering your consent and commitment based on knowingly false information. This is destructive because 1. Fraudulent informed consent. You have the right to make major life decisions based on truthful data. By lying about her history, she strips you of this right, securing your investment under false pretenses. 2. Pattern of deceit. Willingness to lie about something as fundamental as intimate history establishes a pattern. If she will deceive here, she is capable of lying about anything she perceives as a threat to the relationship's stability. 3. Inevitable collapse. Truth has a way of emerging through old messages, encounters with past partners, or eventual confession. The discovery that the relationship's foundation is built on a lie typically destroys trust irreparably. Key identifiers: stories about her past that change or lack specific details, heightened defensiveness or emotional manipulation when the topic arises, a claimed partner count that seems improbably low and static, comments from her social circle that contradict her official narrative. If you discover the deception and remain, you teach her that the strategy is effective, inviting future lies. Why do individuals ignore these clear indicators? Several factors contribute. Sexual scarcity mindset. Fear of losing access can lead to rationalizing unacceptable behavior. Optimistic denial. The desire for her to be the exception overpowers the logical recognition of the pattern. Cultural pressure. Modern discourse often shames men for considering a partner's past, incorrectly labeling prudence as prejudice. Manipulative narratives. These profiles are adept at framing themselves as victims of circumstance rather than architects of their choices, enticing partners into a savior role. The evidence, however, remains clear. Behavioral history is a strong predictor of future. Narcissism as a measurable personality trait appears to be higher in individualistic cultures that emphasize personal achievement, self-reliance, and self-promotion over communal values and interdependence. Let's take a telling example: the United States. Research has tracked a notable rise in average narcissism trait scores since the 1970s. Why then? This was the period when the more communal, socially conscious ethos of the 1960s began to pivot sharply toward the self-esteem movement, which often emphasized feeling good about oneself as a primary goal, alongside a surge in consumer materialism. The message shifted from we to me. And then came the digital age, bringing us to the elephant in the room: social media. Platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook have undoubtedly multiplied the avenues for curated self-presentation, attention-seeking, and status broadcasting. They are a narcissist's potential playground. However, and this is a vital point, there is no conclusive, longitudinal evidence that social media causes clinical narcissism. What the research suggests is that it acts as a powerful amplifier and a readily available tool. It provides individuals with pre-existing narcissistic tendencies an unprecedented, efficient, and far-reaching means to seek the admiration, social comparison, and status validation they crave. It feeds the need. It may not create the initial hunger. Part 3. This leads us to the most important question of all. Can a narcissist change? Is there hope for improvement? The answer, based on clinical evidence, is a cautious yes, but with enormous asterisks. Positive change is possible, but it is exceptionally difficult. The path forward involves any process that consistently promotes two things: honest, unflinching self-reflection and the genuine cultivation of empathy and care for others. Modalities like psychotherapy, specifically modalities like schema therapy or transference-focused therapy, can be helpful. Practices that train compassion and perspective-taking, such as certain forms of mindfulness or compassion meditation, can also chip away at the defensive grandiosity. The primary, almost insurmountable obstacle is this: the very nature of the disorder makes the patient unwilling to seek or stay in treatment. Why? Because therapy requires admitting vulnerability, acknowledging flaws, and accepting criticism, the exact antithesis of the narcissistic defense system. For a narcissist, true self-reflection is not just difficult, it is psychologically painful. It means looking at themselves from an unflattering angle, dismantling the protective facade they have built their entire identity upon. The motivation to change often only appears when they face catastrophic consequences: the loss of a vital relationship, a career-ending scandal, profound social isolation. Even then, the work is grueling and prone to failure. The goal is often management rather than cure. So what do we do with this knowledge? Understanding narcissism and NPD is not about learning to slap a label on people we dislike. It's about developing psychological literacy. It's about recognizing patterns that can cause profound harm in relationships, families, and organizations. It's about protecting your own mental health by setting firm, healthy boundaries. It's about discerning between healthy self-confidence and pathological self-obsession in our leaders and our cultural icons. And on a societal level, it's about questioning the values we collectively reinforce. Do our cultural narratives glorify fame at any cost? Do we reward loud self-promotion over quiet competence? Do we confuse arrogance for strength? The myth of Narcissus ends with a transformation. The human becomes a flower, a static symbol of his own fixation. The psychological reality is less poetic but more actionable. Narcissism exists on a spectrum within all of us. A certain degree of self-interest is healthy and necessary. The danger lies at the extreme end, where the self expands to eclipse the entire world. By understanding its roots, its expressions, and its consequences, we guard against that within ourselves and navigate it more wisely in others. This has been a marathon exploration, and if you've made it this far, you are clearly committed to understanding the depths of human psychology. That commitment is exactly what this channel is built on. So now, I have one final, aggressive call to action for you. First, if you haven't already, go back and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you're always the first to know when we drop this level of in-depth content. Second, scroll down and leave a comment. Let's get a massive discussion going. Share your perspectives, your questions, your experiences. This is how we learn from each other. Third, look for the like button and smash it. That simple click supports this channel more than you know. And finally, share this video widely. Send it to your group chats. Post it on your timeline. Email it to someone who needs it. Your active sharing is what transforms a video from a monologue into a movement of shared understanding. The journey into the human mind doesn't end here. This is just the beginning. So subscribe, share, like, and comment right now. Become part of this community of deep thinkers. I'll see you in the next deep dive.